Today's business English demo lesson is all about presentations. So unlike meetings, we're going to talk about things like trends, upward movements, downward movements. We're also going to go through adjectives, nouns, and verbs practice, and we're going to go through some more trending practice. So you have an idea of how to talk about charts and graphs in your presentations. Now, if that's something you're interested in, stay tuned to find out more. Hey, I'm Michael with Michael's Business English. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Michael Vincon, a former six-figure data analyst turned ESL instructor and career coach. I help non-native English speakers like you with your work life and career increase your value. If you're new here, on this channel we talk about communications, business English, and career development. So if that's something you're into, make sure you like and subscribe, and all the links mentioned in this video can be found in the description box below. All right, so for today's business English lesson, we're going to cover presentations. The objectives for today include to practice common vocabulary used in business presentations, including describing upward/downward trends and other trends in graphs, and to practice the use of qualifying adverbs and the use of approximation and precision. All right, let's get to it. All right, so let's talk about how to describe trends. So typically when you're giving a presentation, when you're talking about charts and graphs, you're going to have to talk about trends, which is the way something is changing or developing. So I'd like you to look at this chart and tell me how you can describe this trend. What are some words you would use to describe this? All right, so take a shot at that. Give me some ideas. Use some vocab. Feel free. This is a warm-up, by the way. So the reason I'm having you do this is to get you to start thinking, start getting engaged in the exercise. So here is how we describe upward movements, right? So when something is going up or it's increasing, we have some verbs you can use and some nouns. So for example, you can say rise when using the verb, or you can say arise when you're using it as a noun, right? Increase when using it as a verb, or unincrease when you're doing a noun. Right? If you're not familiar with how to use verbs or how to use nouns, then I highly recommend you stop and you go look for some A1 to B2 level English, because verbs and nouns are like beginner level grammar. It's really important to get that distinction down because it's going to be hard for you to continue this course. All right, now here are some verbs and nouns to describe downward movement. So you can see in this chart, you can see that the number is going down over the course of time. So you have some verbs and you have the noun version as well. So you can say fall with the preposition to, decline to, decrease to, drop to, reduce to, or you can use a noun, and a fall of, a decline of, a decrease of, a drop of, a reduction of. Now I'd like you to try a sentence. Like, tell me, using one of these words, what's going on here. What's going on with this data. Just do the best you can. You can see it's sales, number of sales, and over time, like month 1, month 2. So how would you describe this downward movement of the chart? Okay, so now we have some adjectives and adverbs to describe trends, right? So for adjectives, you have dramatic, and the adverb version of that would be dramatically. You see the difference? So how about sharp and then sharply, huge and hugely, or moderate and moderately, slight and slightly. You see how that works? You see how the differences between adjectives and adverbs are? Now this is important because when we're describing trends, you want to make sure that you use adjectives with nouns and adverbs with verbs. So here are some examples below. There was a sudden growth in population in 2000. Adjective plus noun, right? Sudden growth. The population suddenly grew in 2000, or the population grew suddenly in 2004, right? You see that you can switch those around. So I'd like you to practice this, like determine whether the sentence uses an adjective and noun or an adverb and verb. Change it to the other form. Be careful to keep the sentence in the same tense, right? Make sure it's the correct tense. So there has been a significant increase in crime. Here's the example: is crime has significantly increased, right? See how this has changed, significantly increased, or crime has increased significantly. So So now I'd like you to try, like, make these alternate sentences that express the same meanings by changing the nouns and adjectives to verbs and adverbs, and vice versa. So here's one example. There has been a steady climb in the number of marriages ending divorce. How would you change that from steady climb to something else? Right? So if you remember the examples from before, like we can go back. So adjectives with nouns, adverbs with verbs. Sudden growth. How do you change it from this to the other one? You change it to suddenly grew. See how you change it from adjectives and nouns to adverbs and verbs. So how about this one? You can notice a slight improvement in test scores. How would you do that one? So let me step in here and give you some examples. So, oh, so you can notice a slight improvement in test scores, where what we could say is that test scores have improved slightly. See how we did that? All right. All right. So qualifying adverbs. The qualifying adverbs just, a little, slightly, a bit, and nearly can be used before prepositions to describe numbers. So for example, we can say that 99.75 is just under $100, and 59.2 seconds is slightly under a minute. A grade of 66 is barely above the passing grade, 65. Right? You can see what's going on here. If instead of saying 99.75, we would say it's just under 100. So how about showing approximation of precision? Like this is when you want to get close to something. Approximation means you want to be as close as you can, right? So to show approximation, you use the adverbs like nearly or close to or approaching. So at 11:56 p.m., you can say it's approaching midnight. 9.8% is close to 10%. So when someone asks you what it is, instead of saying 9.8%, you can say it's close to 10%. Does that make sense? How about precision, right? So precision is when you need to use the actual like exact data. So at 12 p.m. you can say that it's precisely noon. So you can use precisely or exactly to distinguish precision when it's an absolute. So now I want you to practice with expressions describing trends. Decide if the statement that follows each sentence is true or false, right? So unemployment has dropped by about 2% every year for the last 5 years. There has been a steady decrease in the number of people out of work. Is that true or false? Right, based on this sentence. How about this one? The number of students graduating from high school has risen by almost 50%. There has been a decline in the number of students from graduating high school. Is that true or false? It has risen. Remember the words? Has risen by almost 50%. Is that increase or decrease? Do you remember the words for that? All right, so now let's talk about the homework, right? So all Michael's business and English lessons come with homework. And in particular, these lessons from Off to Class come with homework that you can do online from any mobile device, including your phone. And what's good about this one is this section is going to be multiple choice questions where we're going to test your understanding of vocabulary. So here's the first question. Read each question and select the best answer based on the choices provided. Which verb would you not use to describe an upward trend? Fall, increase, improve, or climb. Which verb does not describe an upward trend? So you remember what upward means? If you don't remember, by all means, feel free to Google, because remember, the goal is not to pass or fail the test. The goal is to improve your understanding. So the goal is to get better at this. So if you don't know, then it's better for you to go research, because that will allow you to learn faster, because you're going to get that practice in. Because you're going to get more exposure to the vocabulary. How about this question? Which verb would you not use to describe a downward trend? Would it be improve, fall, reduce, or decline, right? So which of these is not downward? And here's a clue for you. Like, notice how some of these words seem similar in nature. Like, if you know the meaning of the word, then you might know that some of these words are close in meaning, which I'm not going to tell you that because that would be spoiling. So I hope you will do the work, If you don't know your answer, definitely go Google it. Go back through the lesson summary. So let's go to the next homework. So here I want you to answer these questions in full sentences. So this graph is a sales report for Company X taken from the first half of this year. Describe the graph, use the vocabulary from this lesson, right? So do the best you can. And remember, feel free to go back through the lesson summary. And even better, I highly recommend using an app like Grammarly to check your grammar, because there's no point in getting this wrong. The goal of these lessons is to help you improve your language ability. Like, you'll get feedback. I will help you. I will give you feedback on your work, but you also want to do the best you can with your spelling and your grammar. So do the best you can. Go for the gold. Right. So let's see what we have here. The final one is another graph. This graph represents the sales of company A, B, and C for the first 8 months. You are presenting the report to your board of directors. Explain the graph. What happened to sales during each month? So you can see month 1, month 2, month 3, month 4, month 5, month 6, month 7, month 8. All right. I hope you enjoyed this lesson. I hope to see you guys in class. Let me know if you have any questions. Otherwise, I'll talk to you.